Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and in this video what I want to do is go over how to create your own React template, which you can use, really the principles I'm going to talk about here you can use for Vue, Angular, Svelte, Solid.js if you want to create your own template, so that way you don't have to do any kind of things that you always do over and over again. This is the way to do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this terminal that I have open, reopen a new one. But essentially the first thing to do is to create a new project. So we're going to say npx create React app, and we'll just call it my-react template. And essentially the idea here is, oops, I wrote npm, not npx. npx create React app my-react template. There we go. So that's going to build that out. But the idea here is this, like there's certain maybe libraries you use all the time. There may be certain other things that you use all the time. So we want to make use of those things, okay? Have those pre-installed, so that way I don't have to install React Router every single time. I don't have to install styled components every time, and get all the things that you normally want set up. So here's kind of how I would do that. Okay, so we'll say here we have a source folder. You know, normally I'm going to create a folder called components. Okay, I'm going to set up router, so I'm probably going to want a folder called pages too to hold all my routes. So new folder called pages. Again, what your file structure is up to you, but this is just kind of a typical setup. Okay, so yeah. And in this video, what we'll do is you can, like if I wanted to use Sass, for React, all you'd have to actually do is install Sass, and Sass would work. So I could be like npm, so I want to install Sass, it's just Sass, don't use node Sass anymore. Sass, and then I'd want to install React Router and React Router DOM. Just get that all installed. You know, and you might want to install different, like let's say React Strap, things like that. And other cool things. But yeah, so I installed that. So first thing I'm going to do is just configure a router. So I'm going to do that. I like to do that in my index.js. Again, there's different ways to set this up, but this is the way I like to do it. Import. Okay. Import browser router as a router from React Router DOM. So I'm going to import that, and what I like to do is set this up, and I also like to import route. Okay, so what I'd like to do is first I want to wrap everything in router. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, cut this there, put this inside of there, and then this, what I like to do is make this a route path slash, that way this is always visible. But the reason is that way app has access to all the router props, you know, like history.push and things like that, which are useful. And then I hit save. There we go. So there you go. I have router implemented. That's done. I don't have to think about it anymore. It's there. And again, I installed Sass, so instead of using this index.css, and again, you don't have to do any further configuration if I work correctly with React. You just install Sass and it should just work. So I can just change this to index.scss, and then that should work. Okay, so now I'm going to delete all the boilerplate out of here. So I don't have to do that every single time. Get rid of this like logo SVG thing. Delete the logo from the template. I'll just move these things so I don't have to worry about them afterwards. Okay. And then make sure I'm importing, zoom. Okay. Then I'm going to import actually index.scss. And actually that might be already imported in index.js. Yep, right here. So just change that to scss. And then I'll just treat that as my global style sheet, so I won't bother importing app. I'll just delete app.css since I'm not going to use that because this is my template. Okay, so see, everything's kind of getting much more simplified. I'm going to start off with an h1. Hello world. Okay, and then we'll just test to see if my Sass is working by creating a style that would be very Sass-like. So we're going to say, hey, you know, for a div with a h1 inside of it, I would want that h1 to have a color of red. Okay, so if this is working, my H1 should be red, and I should be able to use these nested styles. Although I do think they're adding that finally to CSS, so I may not have to install Sass anymore. Okay, so npm start. Let's just try it out. Let's see if it's working so far. Oop, I got an error. Oh, because I'm not in the right folder. cd my React template, npm start. Okay, and it does not. Oh, there it is. There it goes. It just took a second. So there you go. Okay. Hello world. So it did compile the Sass. Good. Okay, and then if let me just double check to see if React router, all my router props are there. So I go to components, and I go to app. And yep, there's all my history, location, match, all my router props. So everything is working. Okay, and then, in this case, I can keep building up my template. Like, if I want to pre-build modals, if I want to have, like, pre-built button components, like, just start pre-building all sorts of components I might use on a regular basis, I can just keep putting them in this folder. That way, I just clone it, and I already have things like cards and containers and whatnot. So, for example, I might want to create, like, a container component. So I'll say new file, container. And actually, I'll make a different folder for this. We might as well. Okay. So we'll say new file container.js. Okay. And basically this one will be a function that's called container, which takes props in. Okay, and then we'll just say what it does is just returns a div. Okay, and can take a style. And here's what we'll do, just to make sure that, in case they don't pass props in, we'll just say const style equals props.style. And if props.style is undefined, we will also just make it an empty object. Okay. So we'll just say style equals style. So that way you can override the styles if you really want. And then any children will appear here. Okay, so props.children. Okay, and there you go. I have a container, and we can just say that by default, this is going to have a display flex, a flex wrap of wrap, a width of I'm thinking if that's the way I want to do that. Because then if I do try to pass in an object, I have to make sure I have to re-specify all those things. What I could do, well, if props.style exists, well, maybe we'll use a ternary operator instead. So I'll say if props.style exists, then we will make it a mixture of props.style. And then actually I want to save this object in a default. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is so that way there's default styling. So const default equals this object. So that's a default styling. So this way, like, it equals a mixture of both. Okay, and that needs to get rid of that space. And then if that's not true, then it just equals default. And why does it not like that? Is that a reserved word? Default, yeah, apparently that's a reserved word. So we'll just say fallback. Call it fallback. And then we'll call this, and we'll actually just use alt fallback. Okay. Since I can't use default, fallback works for me. Okay, so basically the idea is that this is going to be the default styling. If the style prop is not passed in, if it is, then it will just mix the two objects together. So you get basically that, and then if not, fall back. Okay, cool. So now I can just keep specifying my defaults. Width, we'll say 80%. We'll say 90%. 90% is more aesthetic. And then we want to make sure we center that. So margin 10 pixels auto. Okay. And there we go. I have a container component that's ready to go. It has some defaults. I can modify it if I want. So now I can do something like this. I can be like, import that component to app. So I can import container from /components/container. And what I can do is do something like this. Container. Okay. Not export a default. Oh, did I not do it? I forgot to export it. So there's container, and then I have to do export default container. There we go. So now, if I go back to my app and I say h1 hello world, let's take a look. And see, notice the hello world is not up against the edge of the screen because the container, see that div, the container div, is 90% width and it's centered. Okay, there's my flex wrap container. And if I really did not want it to be, and if I don't want it to be, I can just be like, in that case, instead, let's make it flex. We'll just say, I'll pass it some new properties. I'll say width 100%. I can pass it a new style object, and that will override. Just make sure that it would override. No, I know why. I need to replace the order here because I need this to be after that because the one that goes second is going to overwrite the first one. So that's how that should go. And see, now that works. Now it overrides the width property. Okay, cool. So you can create components, and now I have this reusable container component. I don't have to redefine what a container is every time, and I can customize it to my liking. Okay, and you can do that. You can create all these pre-made components. I can start setting up my page. So I can start setting up do a basic setup for my routes. So I can say, hey, I want a home page. So home.js. Okay, and we'll just keep this simple. Function home props. Okay, return h1 home. Okay, so there's my component. Make sure I remember to export it. Export default home. And then I can go to app.js, import home. Pages/home. Okay, import my router components. So import route switch from React router. Technically React router DOM. Get that all in there. And now I can go in here and put in my switch. I can say here, put in my switch for all my routes. There's my switch. Then I'll put in my initial route for the home page. So route, generally for the home route, I always do exact path. Okay. And then I always kind of like to do the render prop method for these routes. So that means we're going to do render. And that takes in a function. I'll just say RP, that stands for router props, equals home .rp. That injects the router props. Okay, and then I gotta do that. And there we go, there's my route. So now I should see the home refresh, or that my server died at some point. So let's restart it. Oh, put an arrow when I use a function keyword. Woof. Slipping. Cool. Fresh, and let's see, I get home. Okay, that's the route. Okay, and just to kind of test things out, I might make a second page just to make sure that the router's working. So I'll say paste, copy, paste in the pages folder, copy, paste. And I'll rename this to other page, other.js, and then I'll just rename everywhere that says home, change that all to other. Yay for the Alt key. And just to make sure this is all working, I will import other from /pages/other. I'll copy this route. Okay, except this one I do not want the exact path prop because it should only match when the URL is other. And then this should use the other under the other component. Okay, but right now there's no way for me to switch URLs, so I need the link component so I can set up some buttons. So I brought just to test this out. So I'm gonna say link to / okay, and then this will be a button, and the button will say home, and then I'll do another one for other. Okay. Alt other. Okay. And let me just make this say other. So basically when I click on this button, it changes the URL to this. When I click on this button, it changes the URL to that. And when the URL is that, this route will show up so I can switch between the two pages now. So see other. I think I got that backwards. Why is that backwards? Home, other. Did I add the wrong component? Oh, I did. I see what I did. Okay, so this is the home component. By accident, I added that. So let me change that back to home. And then let's go to the other component here and change that back, change that to other. Okay, and see I have everything all set up. So technically, and now I have a working template, like all my basic setup is kind of set up. I can continue working on this and continue like developing it, but for now, that's kind of what I needed. So then what I do is I'm just gonna, this should already have a Git repo inside of it. If I'm not sure, just do git status. Okay, so good. And what I'm gonna do is just do git add dot git commit -m template update. And there we go. Okay, now I need to connect this to a repo, so I'm gonna head over to github.com. Okay, I have a couple different organizations I'm in. So we'll use this in misc templates. Okay, actually I'll put this in Merced templates. Merced templates. Okay, and I'm gonna create a new repo. We'll just call this my React template. Okay, my React template. And just keep it, I'll make it public. I'll put the link in the video description so you can see it and examine it. And I'm going to copy this URL. And I'm going to say npx, no, not npx, git remote add origin, Control Shift V. That connects it. So now I can do git push origin main, because see, I'm on the main branch. The way you know what branch you're on is you do git branch. And see, I'm on the main branch. You might be on a master branch. So then I do git remote, git push, because I want to push to my origin remote, because I called it origin when I added it. And I want to push it to, I want to push up specifically my main branch. So I do that, that pushes up the code. The code is now pushed up, so now I should be able to go over here and hit refresh. Okay, and now I have this template that I can use. Okay, and I can continue customizing it. Now what I can do is go to settings, and then there's this template feature saying template repository. If I click template, now when you go to the main page, you can just click use this template and it creates a copy of the repo. It doesn't create a fork, so it doesn't tie back to the original template in the same way a fork does. It just creates sort of a copy on your account that you can then clone and work from. So that's one way. You could use this and then clone down that new template generated repo. Okay, and again, feel free to use my template if you want. Or what you can do, so let me see the upper folder, you can use degit, which I personally love. npx. Okay, Rich Harris makes great stuff. I think he made rollup, he made degit, he made svelte. All my favorite things. Okay, but basically here what you do is you do npx degit, that's the script. And then what you do is you put in the name of sort of the user. In this case, it would be the name of the organization, so Alex Merced Templates, and then the name of the template. So I can just actually literally copy this. I'm pretty sure this should work. Control Shift V. Nope, only does the first part. Okay. npx degit Alex Merced Templates. Then I would do my React template, because basically it's the username in a sense. So in that case, that'd be your organization or your personal GitHub, depending on where you put the repo. And then the name of the repo, and then by default, it's going to try to clone the master branch. So if you're like me and you default to main, you need to make sure you also add main at the end. So that way it clones the main branch. And then you just say what folder you want it in. So we'll just say copy of template. Okay, so watch what happens. So see, right now I have these folders in there. Actually, these are extra, so let me just delete these. That shouldn't be there. Okay. Cool. Just make sure I didn't delete them there. Good. Okay. But I do copy a template. I hit enter on this command, and it just clones it. And there you go. So I have a copy of my template. Okay. Like what I usually do is I'll take these commands, and then I just bundle them all into a generator. That's what Merced Spinup is. It's basically a spinup of all these commands, so that way you don't have to type all this. Although this is not so bad, depending on what your username is and what your repo name is. You can be very strategic about it. But the nice thing about this is it just copies the template, and it doesn't actually copy over the repo. So you don't have to then like afterwards remove a repo or reinitialize a repo. It's just a repo-less folder with all the code, and then you can just initialize the repo when you want. So either way it works, whether you're using like GitHub Templates or npx degit, you can take some repo you have on GitHub and treat it like a template that you can then edit and adapt. So that way you start with kind of a project that you like, okay? But that's the idea. So the idea is like that way you don't have to keep doing the boilerplate of like React Router and Sass and whatnot. Every once in a while you do want to pay attention to check, maybe update it just because libraries update, and you don't want to necessarily be using like too old a version of Router or something like that. But you don't necessarily have to do it that often. I would say, hey, 6 months to a year, check in on it, update libraries, reinstall them. But otherwise, you're good to go. My name's Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.